We are back. College football, every game on the board podcast. We got Mid-Major Matt in for segment 2. Mid-Major Matt, welcome into the pod. How are you?
Doing well there, Drew. Everything's looking forward to another great weekend of college football.
Absolutely, man. Excited about it. We got MLB playoffs, college football, NFL, NHL starting up as well. Good time to be a sports bettor. And we start off here with a MAC versus Big Ten game. Always a tricky handicap here when Kent State visits Wisconsin in Camp Randall. We got 36. That's with the Badgers laying at home. 59.5, Matt.
Well, in the past I've said I hate these name your number type games because, of course, if a team pulls off the reins a la UCF last week, you lose your cover. So this is one of those situations where maybe you want to consider Wisconsin in the first half. I mean, they bludgeoned their bad opponents, beating USF 49-0 week 1, Central Michigan week 2. They win 61-0. They do have a look ahead to Michigan State at home next week, so maybe you get a slightly unfocused Badgers effort in the second half. But, man, I think the Wisconsin team in this first half could be worth a look. Jonathan Taylor, the running back, is looking to continue to add to his Heisman resume, and I think he'll do so with plenty of touchdowns in this one.
We got Eastern Michigan at Central Michigan, the battle of the directional Michigan schools here in Maction. 6.5, that's EMU laying on the road. 53.5 the total, Matt.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan is coming off of a bye week, but they 2 weeks ago I had Central Connecticut State, and they covered that one. As Eastern Michigan's one of those teams, they're very good as an underdog, but they're not as good when it comes to being a favorite. Last year, they were 2-2 as a favorite at home. They were 1-1 as a favorite on the road. I mean, Eastern Michigan's a very solid team. Mike Glass is a pretty good quarterback. They've got a decent running game that they don't feature enough. Central Michigan, I thought, was going to go in the toilet once Germany got hurt and Jonathan Ward was out for a bit of time. But they went to Miami and lost 17-12. And last week, they got the backdoor cover against Western Michigan, 31-15. I don't know necessarily if that's going to continue to happen. Eastern Michigan coming off a bye week, but on the road in this heated rivalry matchup because all the directional Michigan schools don't seem to like each other very much.
Matt, with next game up, interested in your opinion here on the Hokies. Virginia Tech at Miami. We're seeing 14. That's what Miami's laying in Hard Rock Stadium. 47 the total in Miami Gardens on Saturday.
First of 3 straight in a row at home. This is going to be part of a 5 games in a row home stretch for Miami, although they had a bye in there last week. Look, the Hurricanes are a hard team to trust right now. They're putting up all the numbers offensively. They're doing everything right defensively, but it's not necessarily translating on the scoreboard because they only scored 20 against Florida. They only scored 25 against North Carolina. They only scored 17 against the aforementioned Central Michigan team in a 17-12 win. The problem is the Hokies are terrible. Like, I'll be flat out, they lose 45-10 at home to Duke. Might as well have been 45-0. Their offense is unimaginative. Ryan Wilson's not a good quarterback. Hendon Hooker comes in, and all he does is run it. They've got Quincy Patterson, who doesn't seem like he knows the offense very well. The defense struggles with mobile quarterbacks, so all that seems to tell you to take Miami, but can you trust the Hurricanes right now? They're not a great team when it comes to covering at home. They were 3-3 as a favorite last year against the spread. They've got Virginia coming up next Friday night, which is a lot bigger game. Could be deciding the Coastal there in that one. I'd like to think Miami could cover this big number, but maybe the total is probably worth a look. If you believe that Virginia Tech's not going to score, you'll probably look at the under.
And he's Mid-Major Matt, at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter, works for ESPN Richmond there near Blacksburg. Matt, what is kind of the sentiment around the program right now from what you're hearing?
Well, I think it's just it's going to be, the frustration is palpable. It's going to get a lot worse when they lose to Virginia because this team in this area is known for 2 things: their bowl streak, which is going to be threatened, and their streak over Virginia, which is a ton right now. And both of those things seem like they're not going to get extended this year. And I think the heat will get turned up even more on Coach Fuente. They've started to dig into his contract to see what his buyout number is, but things are not going very well for the Hokie program right now.
No, not at all. We got Sunbelt versus SEC here as the Troy Trojans visit the Missouri Tigers. We got 24.5 or 25. That's Missouri laying in Columbia. 65 the total, Matt.
Troy is a very fascinating team under Chip Lindsey so far. Last year they were 10-3. They're coming off a tough loss against Arkansas State, 50-43 at home as a favorite. This is a team that's able and capable of putting up points. They played Boise State last year to a 56-20 game, and I kind of like to look a little bit at last year's results to see how they do against Power 5 schools and things like that. Troy could certainly hold up their end of the bargain, although the offense hasn't been as strong with B.J. Smith out there, their Sun Belt all-conference running back. Missouri, though, coming off a bye week, the defense is playing really well. Held West Virginia to 7 points, held Southeast Missouri to 0, held South Carolina to 14. With Kelly Bryant leading this offense, I think the over is in play here. There's no real look ahead with Mississippi coming up as the homecoming game next week. I think we could see like a 45-23 type game maybe. Missouri probably wins rather easily, but Troy helps out when we get into that over situation.
Matt, next game up, Liberty, a team that you know pretty well, have been involved with. We got New Mexico State hosting Liberty, 61.5 the total, 4.5. That's Liberty laying on the highway.
Yeah, I'm not ready to lay the points yet with Liberty as a road team. You know, this is a squad that's very inconsistent. They were a road favorite. They've been a road favorite just once the past couple of years. Now, of course, they didn't have a line for a lot of their games before they became FBS. This is, they lost their first two contests, but are starting to finally play like the team I expected. I have an over ticket on their season win total. I did not expect them to lose to Louisiana. Louisiana's a lot better than I thought they would be before the season began. Now they hit the road to take on a New Mexico State team that just doesn't do anything right. They don't play very good defense. They've got a decent offense with Josh Adkins at quarterback. But if you look outside of that 52 points they scored against New Mexico in the I-25 rivalry, they put up 7 on Washington State, 10 on Alabama, 10 on San Diego State, and 17 on Fresno State. I went for the over last week on Liberty. It didn't work out very well. If there was anything to play in this game, I'd consider the over once again, but it's probably a game I won't have on my card. As a reminder, this is also a home and home. They'll host New Mexico State the last game of the season.
Yeah, interesting setup there. They're playing twice in 1 year. And guys, Mid-Major Matt mentioned his card at sportsmemo.com. And you can get his 3-day all access. That would be every play he releases, college football, NFL, any MLB if he does, for only $29, less than $10 a day, using the coupon code MMM29. MMM29 at checkout for his 3-day all access at sportsmemo.com. Heading out to the Pac-12, Matt, we got Arizona at Colorado. The Buffs laying 4 at home, 62.5 the total.
I really don't know how you play this game yet because there's so many injuries. Laviska Shenault, who is really the only threat that Colorado has, is questionable for this one with an undisclosed injury. I'm going to wait and see what his status is. I don't even know what Khalil Tate's status is. Plus, J.J. Taylor's hurt. I was looking at an article, and this will go along with a lot of the stuff we're talking about because we've got a lot of Pac-12 games. There are 34 players who are currently either injured, were injured over the weekend, or we don't know their status across the Pac-12. So really, Colorado at home is not a bad bet, although they did lose to Air Force at home. They beat New Mexico. They beat Nebraska at home. There's just so many question marks in terms of injuries here. If Tate's healthy and Laviska Shenault's not, maybe Arizona's live. If neither of them are healthy, maybe the under's worth a look. So this one is kind of up in the air, and you probably should wait till it's close to Saturday to get some injury status updates.
Mid-Major Matt, let's head to the Mountain West here. San Diego State at Colorado State. We got 52 being the total, with the Aztecs laying 7 in the hook or 8, depending where you're shopping on the road.
Yeah, San Diego State is coming off a bye week. They lost to Utah State 23-17. This is a squad that won their first game against Weber State 6-0. And then they went on the road and they beat UCLA. Well, you know what San Diego State wants to do. They want to run the ball. They want to take as much pressure off of Agnew, the quarterback, and whoever else is under center as much as possible because they just don't have the skill position guys outside of Juwan Washington. Colorado State, they don't play defense. Their last 3 games, they've allowed 55, 41, and 34. They've ironically lost all 3 of those games because they're just not playing defense. Colin Hill is out for the season. You've got an offense that's still managing to score some points here, but I don't know if they're necessarily going to do it against San Diego State. The Aztecs have been were a favorite twice last year on the road, did not cover either time. I'll be looking to see where the total moves in this one. That might be, if I was to play this game, as something involving the total for this matchup.
And heading to the Pac-12 this time, Oregon State at UCLA. Bruins laying 6 in the Rose Bowl, 65.5 the total.
I'm not happy. Last week I wanted to place Oregon State in their game against Stanford. Oregon State coming off a bye week. Jonathan Smith's not a very good football coach, but the Luton kid at quarterback is not bad. They've got a decent defense. I use the word decent loosely. They came up short 31-28. It was a lot of scoring in the fourth quarter of that one. You've got a UCLA team that lost last week 20-17 on the road against Arizona. you had to wonder if they had figured things out after that big 67-63 win at Washington State. But they've gone 14, 14, 14, and 17. Their other 4 games besides that contest. I know this line is coming down. I can't lay the points with Oregon State on the road. They were 1-4-1 last year as a road dog, but I'm certainly not rushing to the window to bet UCLA. I don't know if they've got things figured out in this one. Could be a matchup to watch and see if you could see similar situations come up in future weeks.
California Golden Bears up next, and this has been a tough handicap. Cal going on the road, beating Ole Miss, and then coming back, losing to Arizona State. Either way, they're going to Eugene and facing the Oregon Ducks here. The Ducks laying 18 at home, 46 the total. Another situation with injuries. How healthy is the Garbers kid? And, the California, I'll be honest. I went to bed after the halftime of the game. I watched the first half against Arizona State. Cal's offense moved a bit up and down the field. They're more of a defensive-based team. They went to Ole Miss, and they held them to 20 points. UC Davis, 13. Washington on the road, 19. 17 points for North Texas. Oregon coming off a bye week. They get the chance to retool things, get a little refreshed a little bit after only a 21-6 win at Stanford. I usually like teams coming off their bye week. It gives them a chance to refocus, get things going a little bit. There's no real look-ahead factor for Oregon as they've got Colorado at home on Friday night as part of that Friday night package that the Pac-12 has. It's a really big number, so I'm not really concerned with laying that points with Oregon. Maybe, it's a 46 total. I mean, maybe they take the under, and if Garbers isn't healthy and you get a defensive-type battle, but the problem is if Oregon's offense starts rolling along, then you could be in trouble with this low total. Absolutely. And you mentioned going to bed. He is on the East Coast there. Works for ESPN Richmond, mid-major Matt, sportsmemo.com. Check out his full season package as well. I recommend it. He really knows his small conference football. So if you're into betting that, you should check it out. Also, if you just want to try it out, just $29, under $10 a day for his 3-day all access at sportsmemo.com. The coupon code MMM29 at checkout. In the Pac-12, Washington at Stanford. We're seeing the Huskies laying 16.5 on the farm, 52 the total.
Yeah, I don't care how much of a mismatch it is. I'm never going to tell anybody, hey, lay on that many points on the road with any team. I don't care. Washington won 45-19 against BYU, but we've talked about this game. I mean, BYU just ran out of gas. Washington, as a road favorite last year, was 1-3 against the spread. This is a bad Stanford team. We don't know anything about KJ Costello's status. They, as we talked about, they only won 31-28 at Oregon State. This is a team that had a 3-game losing streak, losing at USC, at UCF. They lost that game to Oregon. I don't trust Stanford, but I'm certainly not telling anybody to go and lay the points. Washington clearly is the better team, but weird things happen on the road in conference play, and certainly, Washington afterwards has another road trip against Arizona. I would think that Arizona might be a bigger threat than Stanford, depending upon Khalil Tate's status. So I'll probably watch this one, use it in the memory bank, and put it in for the future and decide maybe on future plays based off of what I see in this one.
All right, Matt, heading a little bit more back to your comfort zone. We got Tulsa at SMU. Mustangs laying 13 at home, 62 the total, Matt.
SMU, a top 25 team, crazy to think about because this program, I'm one of my favorite 30 for 30s is the death penalty one that they talked about for SMU, and they've got so much talent, and it's amazing when you pair Sonny Dykes with the quarterback. Shane Buechele has been incredible for SMU. Their lowest point total was week 1, 37 points against Arkansas State. They've scored 49, 47, 41, and 48 the last 4 weeks. The defense has been a little bit leaky, giving up 38 points to TCU on the road is not terrible, but giving up 30 on the road to Arkansas State's not great. 21 last week to USF. This is an SMU team that's going to score a lot. I don't know about Tulsa. I had Tulsa when they beat Wyoming 2 weeks ago on the money line because I thought Wyoming was a fraud. Tulsa's 2 wins are San Jose State and Wyoming. They lost at home to Oklahoma State, and they lost to Michigan State. Results that probably you would take if you're an AAC team. I don't like them on the road here against SMU. I would consider the over if you think that Tulsa is going to do enough scoring and help out on this total.
Matt, a big one in the Big Ten. We got the Iowa Hawkeyes at the Michigan Wolverines in the Big House, 3.5. The Wolverines laying at home, 48 the total here.
I mean, Michigan's playing like a mid-major team lately, so I kind of appreciate you throwing this game in here. I don't think everything is well after beating Rutgers 52-0. I think it just kind of confirmed that Michigan's better than Rutgers, and they're not, in the lower tier of the Big Ten. Iowa, they're 4-0, but who have they beaten? They beat Miami, Ohio. They beat Rutgers. They won on the road in a miracle against Iowa State, and then they beat Middle Tennessee. So what do we really know about the Hawkeyes so far this year? They are on the road. They are a slight dog. They've been a decent away dog the last couple of years. Last year, 1-0-1. Look, Michigan's got a good defense. Iowa, I guess, has a good defense, but Michigan's got a bad offense. So maybe you consider the under here around 47.5 as both of these teams kind of feel each other out early and kind of see what kind of squads they actually have. You don't know how good Iowa is, and we don't know how good Michigan is in terms of, Iowa's not Wisconsin, but can they beat a better team in the Big Ten? We'll find out on Saturday.
Matt, staying in the Big Ten, we got Illinois at Minnesota. We got the Gophers laying 2 touchdowns at home, 58 the total.
Well, Illinois, Illinois is another team that might as well be a mid-major team. Minnesota, Illinois is coming off a bye, okay? They've got Lovie Smith. I still think that's one of the worst hires in college football. The wins are over Akron and UConn. Okay, 2 wins they should have. They lost at home to Eastern Michigan. They lost at home to Nebraska. They've had a bye week to cleanse things. But Illinois has had some injury issues themselves. Away as an underdog, they were 1-3 last year, 2-3 2 years ago, 2-2 against the spread. So under Lovie Smith, that makes it, and this is very crude math here, 5-8 against the spread the last couple of years. Minnesota, they want to run the ball. They've got Ibrahim, they've got Rodney Smith. They don't necessarily trust the quarterbacks to go nuts here. They have some decent wide receivers, but Minnesota wants to play a ball control ground kind of game here, coming off a 38-31 win against a banged up Purdue team last week. It's homecoming for Minnesota. I think they win the game. I don't know if I'm ready and comfortable enough to lay that many points on the road. Maybe, you do one of those teasers. You take it down to a touchdown. You throw it in with some other stuff, although I don't usually like teasing people when it's still 14. But maybe if you find a super teaser somewhere, you tease them down and throw in a bunch of other stuff, and then you get, Minnesota at a more manageable number.
The old super teaser. Good stuff, Matt. We got one game left, guys, here on this segment. Then we'll bring in Robbie Vino and finish it off on tomorrow's slate. But we got MMM29 for his 3-day all access at sportsmemo.com. That is the coupon code MMM29 at sportsmemo.com for his 3-day all access. Finishing it up here in Conference USA, 359-360, Matt. Rice at UAB. We got the Blazers laying 9.5 or 10 in Legion Field, 44.5 the total.
So based off of the records, you would say Rice is pretty bad, and they're not good. But if you look, the last 2 weeks, at home, they lost in overtime to Louisiana Tech. They lost 21-13 to Baylor in a game that clearly Baylor wasn't focused for, but still, to only hold them to 21 points. They also lost to Army week 1, 14-7. Of course, they got blown out by Wake Forest and Texas in weeks 2 and 3. I don't know how much that says about their defense. I don't know how much that says about the opponents taking them seriously. But UAB's coming off a tough loss at Western Kentucky, 20-13. I mean, they've got Tyler Johnson at quarterback, Spencer Brown at running back. Brown, one of the best running backs that people probably don't talk about in this league. They beat Alabama State back in week 1, 24-19. They win by 11 at Akron, 31-20, have the bye week, then win 35-3 over South Alabama. Neither team, look, if you base it off of the results, Rice is a decent dog in this one because they've shown the ability to play up to their opponents. But can you really feel comfortable with an Owls team that very easily could lay an egg and certainly get blown out in this one, especially if UAB wants to get out some frustrations after last week? Probably not going to be on my card, but something to consider here is that Rice has played better than their record as of late.
All right, mid-major Matt, anything else you want to throw out before we shut this segment down?
Very disappointed this week. There are no FCS, FBS games. Usually there's like 1 or 2 for me to kind of nibble on a little bit, but this week there is actually 0 of them, and I don't necessarily like it. So can we get some more of those in the future, please?
In mid-major Matt, let me ask a follow-up question. What about any FCS games you want to throw out there? Are you involved or looking to get involved when the numbers come out?
Well, let me tell you. So if you've listened to us when we do the In Progress show, or you follow me on Twitter at MidMajorMatt, I have said all year that Vegas has tragically underrated James Madison. James Madison is the number 2 ranked team in the FCS right now, and they've proven it on the field. Last week, they gave up a touchdown early to Elon and then ran for over 300 yards in a huge victory. This week, they've got Stony Brook. It's the 3rd game of 3 straight on the road for them, so you have to wonder if the road weariness will take over a little bit. Also have to wonder about focus after last week having their head coach beat his former team. JMU is going to score. The total is around 45 right now in certain places. It may not come out until Saturday morning, depending upon your sports book. But if you can get it right now, I like JMU in the over, or I like the over in the JMU game, especially at 45 points. They could get that themselves. Even if they don't, I still think they maybe give up a touchdown or two, and we see maybe like a 37-14 type of game. Vegas continues to underrate in terms of JMU's offense, the point totals for their contests.
In mid-major, Matt, so like in the Madison side and the over, is that correct?
No, just the over. I'm not going to take this side because, once again, focus could be an issue. It's the 3rd straight road game. Stony Brook wants to run the ball too, much like James Madison does, so that could be part of an issue as well. I just think the over here, I think they're going to see plenty of points in Stony Brook. I don't know where Stony Brook University is. I mean, I know it's in New York, but I don't know the exact city. But plenty of points in the JMU Stony Brook game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, they had a good basketball team a couple years back. Maybe that was last year, not really sure. But mid-major, Matt, market-wide, when do the FCS games come out? Saturday morning?
Well, there is a sports book that puts them out very quickly. The lines are very fluid when it comes to that. So a line you may see one day is going to move based on one bet, because obviously if you're betting an FCS game, they think you know what you're talking about. So therefore, they're going to move the line based off of your bet. A lot of the other books will put out at least the lines on Saturday morning as close as possible. And then some of them will also drip out the overs and the unders because they don't want to get beaten up by people who, just basically want to bet that game.
All right, he's mid-major, Matt. Check out his packages at sportsmemo.com. We got full season discounted up there at the website. And also, if you're just looking to try them out for 3-day all access, remember the coupon code MMM29 at checkout. Give it to you for under $10 a day. Mid-major, Matt, thanks for the time. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow with Robbie Vino breaking down the next segment, and then Teddy Covers closing it out for college football, every game on the board podcast. Best of luck with your bets.